of this pandemic, but we've got to kick off this Friday night show here. Joining us tonight is Norm Champ, the author of Mastering Money, How to Beat Debt, Build Wealth, and Be Prepared for Any Financial Crisis. He is also the former director of the Division of Investment Management at the SEC. Thank you so much for being here, Norm.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And as I was telling you right before the show, we just need your voice and your expertise so badly, because obviously this economic shutdown, part of this whole pandemic, has been such a source of stress, trauma, just real struggle for basically 2 full months now. So we're glad you're here to answer those financial questions for our viewers. And as you know, the U.S. jobs report coming out today, which said the U.S. unemployment rate is the highest it has ever been since the Great Depression. Obviously, that is not good news, but can you explain just the magnitude of that statement about where we are?
You know, one way to think about the magnitude that's really shocking is yesterday's first-time unemployment claims report was over 3 million claims. That is substantially down, so it was viewed as somewhat positive. But think about the fact that those 3 million jobless claims yesterday is 5 times the record number of jobless claims that was set back in the 08-09 crisis. So, you know, it sounds better than where we had been on some of these prior weeks of 6 million, and yet we are still, you know, orders of magnitude more job losses than we had in the 08 crisis. And it's really tough to have. That was a financial crisis, but here we have a health crisis that has triggered an economic crisis. And it's got this element of it where 2/3 of Americans cannot work from home, and they are out of jobs because they cannot get to the workplace. And so the impact on families and people around this country is dramatic and very stressing.
And there's so much of obviously a domino effect here. You know, can we talk about, it's, you know, again, really overwhelming to think about, because so many people, especially our viewers, are just trying to literally get through the day. Some people, as I know, will call in, haven't even gotten their unemployment checks. That's another whole issue. Stimulus checks issues as well. But, you know, the bigger picture, what's coming down the road? How does this affect, you know, years to come?
So traditionally in these crises, we lose years of job development, for instance. So one of the points I make in the book is, you know, there's really 3 things: cutting expenses, getting a job and earning, and all the things that go with that, and then investing and trying to build your own personal balance sheet. Well, when you think about the job side of this, we're going to have significant lost, frankly, in some individual cases, years of learning and skill building and networking on jobs. So the cost goes out a long way. Now, I think that's kind of bigger picture. Shorter term, real question here of how quickly can New York reopen? We've got lots of states around the country that are putting in place plans that have reopened and businesses are starting back. But you see the governor and Mayor de Blasio talking about trying to meet certain metrics so that we can get people back to work. We're improving on those metrics, and it's promising. We're certainly on the right path. But New York's one of the hardest hit, well, the hardest hit city in America. And so our impact here is going to last longer, and it's going to be harder to get people back to work here with our density, with the amount of the disease that we've had. It's just tougher here to get people back to work, which would alleviate the strain that people are under of trying to survive, as you say, through this very challenging time.
Yeah. And thank you for breaking that down in that way, because it's really hard to think big picture. And I do want to get to what people can do now, if anything. Again, as I mentioned, just people are trying to wake up, either call the Department of Labor, get their unemployment check. If they are getting their unemployment check, there's still just so much stress upon families or individuals just going through this time. They might have lost a family member. I mean, everyone's affected by COVID-19 in some way. And so what can we tell families and our viewers who are watching tonight? What are some of the things that they can be checking off in their mind or starting to think about to put them in a better position when this is all over, whenever that is?
So the first thing right now is to really think about expenses. So always, we should be thinking about our expenses and are they in line? Do we have a good handle on them? Are we spending money on the things that we intend to spend money on? So one of the things that we have a consumer society, right? There's no changing that. Part of being a consumer society is there's lots of messages for us to spend, lots of things for us to buy. When you open up, Amazon, things are suggested, right, for you to buy that are based on what you bought before. So there's a lot of incentive to spend, a lot of attraction to spend. In this time in particular, really important to think about the expense side of your personal balance sheet, because as you point out, the income side, the employment side is in real disarray right now, very uncertain. So when you think about the expense side, we're all stuck at home, right? We can't go out. So it's a perfect time to get out your credit card statement, get out your checking statement, and look for expenses that you may not need in this time. So the classic that I use in the book is studies show that most Americans have around 9 recurring apps on their phone that charge them something every month. Unfortunately, they only use about an average of 3 a month. So that means there are 6 apps on most people's phone charging them recurring fees month after month. How does that come about? We all know you get the free trial on an app, you put in your credit card, you can cancel anytime. We're all busy, we have our families, our children, our jobs, and it's very hard to go back and cancel. So just a very concrete step to think about is look over your statements and see if there are any things like, if you signed up for NBA ticket, in the winter to watch a, exciting basketball game,
right?
Get rid of that, right? Because you want to make sure you're trying. Income side is so uncertain. Try to cut all the unnecessary expenses you can. If there's anything else, so the apps is just an example, honestly. But go through the expense side, which typically for most of us is our bank account and our credit cards, and take a look at, is there anything we can cut back on here? Because we are in a period of uncertainty. Unemployment offices are overwhelmed. The stimulus checks are coming out slowly. So one thing you can control is your expenses. Not all. Obviously, we've got rent. We all have fixed expenses. But look at those other expenses that maybe could be cut in this time.
Such good advice. And that's, something, we have a money segment here and a financial expert that comes on that my colleague Christy Reeder, and that's one of the things she always brings up is obviously just doing that check, pull out the bank account, your statement, what have you gotten this month, what this week, break it down by day even. So this is a good time where we all have a little more time at home to do that check-in. And now I'm thinking about the apps too on my phone. I'm like, what do I have? So thank you for that.
Think about eating out as well. So obviously, seeing the restaurants shut down is a terrible blow to the city. The city thrives on restaurants, and so it's a terrible blow to the city. But consider as well, as you are stuck at home and cooking and buying food, right? Think about, hey, we all know it's a lot cheaper to buy groceries and cook than it is to go out. So that's another place to sort of focus on now and think about, all right, well, maybe that's a place I can conserve so that I can make my resources last a little longer until the income side gets straightened out, right? So obviously, we want to hope people get their unemployment checks, hope they get their stimulus checks, but more importantly, hope they get back out to the workforce so that they can, earn a living and take care of their families and take care of the necessities that we all need in life. So it is a good time to focus on the expense side of the equation.
For sure, and especially if it's been a while. Again, it might add some definite, even more stress in this time to take a look at, what you are spending money on when not much is coming in. But again, it is a good time to kind of force yourself to do that. So thank you for those reminders. And I know I'm definitely going to take that and probably need to do that this weekend myself. But we're going to be right back with some of our viewers' questions who are waiting on the line. We are going to be back, so stay with us.